800 Americans and thousands of their Vietnamese staff and their families were still in the city. The evacuation plan was that buses would pick them up from pre-arranged evacuation points and take them to the airport. But the airport was surrounded by South Vietnamese soldiers, angry that the Americans were leaving them. One convoy of evacuees was led by Kenmorefield.
I got back out to the airbase, and then I was confronted by the guards. And there was an officer in charge of the guards. And I kept insisting, you know, we've got to get on the base. I've got these people, we've got an evacuation. He was adamant that we were not going to get on the base, that he had orders that no one was to get on the base. And so finally he got sufficiently angered that he pulled out his pistol and cocked it and pointed at my forehead. And I said, ooh, okay. I think, you know, you got the force majeure here. We'll just go somewhere else. And so I turned around and took the convoy back into Saigon.
Kim was reluctant to go anywhere on that day.
My mother, she kept pushing behind. She said that you have to go to the embassy. But I myself, in my family, was the only one who had link with the American that I could do something. But I myself at that time, I thought that I already did everything. I submit my application and I'm waiting for my turn because they were evacuating everybody to leave by their turn. My mother, she kept pushing to say, at least escape for yourself because you work for the American, they come in, you will have to pay the price. I just say that, let's just wait. And I believe so strongly that the American would never leave us. And that's what the worst part, waiting for it to happen. But you were so helpless. You could not do anything to move people. Your life is at somebody's hand, and your fate is at someone else's hand.
All over the city were Vietnamese who worked for the Americans. They had done as they were told and gathered at the evacuation points. Now they waited for the Americans to do their part. 200 of them had gathered at the US Information Agency, which was headed by Alan Carter.
The next thought was, how do we get them out? The next thought was, get a bus to them if possible. And I remember talking to somebody at Mission Morden who was saying, Alan, we're running out of resources. We have nothing to, less and less to work with. The Vietnamese drivers were fleeing, deserting the buses. Other buses were simply breaking down. And I realized this was not going to happen. Nobody was going to get over there. I finally got on the phone with one of them and said, the best thing to do, get out of the compound in small groups, 2s and 3s, get over to my villa, which is closer to the embassy, and which would presumably not be surrounded at that point. The next best and never materialized hope was that some of them would show up at the wall, outside the wall, where the Marines could, if you said, pull some people up over the wall. I went there for a short while, but nobody showed up that I recognized, and in effect kept up a hopeless kind of telephoning around trying to locate our locals. What does it feel like to be abandoned when you're scared to death of what's going to happen the next day when the feared North Vietnamese are going to be there? And to have your American power base disappear without getting you the hell out of there. It's a personal disaster for all of them. You know, I'm not a person given to nightmares. I don't think I've ever had a nightmare in my life until the first 6 months I was back here. I awoke every night, and it was always a nightmare about abandonment. Always.